Drew, thank you for taking the time. How's the time of your day going aside from answering the same questions over and over and over again about yourself and Orion?
I love the self-awareness. It's very meta. No, it's we've had some really good stuff. I think what I'm liking most is like how each person that we talk to is kind of has their own version of what they're seeing, and that's all we've ever asked for, with storytelling and what we want people to take away from this. So
Sure.
I enjoy doing it, man. This is stuff that I'm really interested in. So, I'm glad I get to chat with you.
Well, likewise, likewise. So, Orion, the new film, Apollo. How much of
hmm
Apollo is there in you, the human being?
Mm, good question. There's a lot. I mean, I think for me, I can just speak on, as Drew, like,
Hmm.
as a man, I kind of evolve slowly at times, and then other times it feels like I'm like leaps and bounds ahead of where I was before. So um, I'm really interested in this notion of like how, as people, we see ourselves as certain ways, right? I've been calling it like an identity. We have this identity of, oh, I'm a nice guy. I'm this, I'm that, whatever. And it's kind of really, is it what you think of yourself? Is it what you really are? Or is it just this, um, you know, melting pot of perceptions and words and notions that other people have said about you through time, that
Hmm.
you've been like, yeah, I am that. And yeah, that does make sense. I'm going to take that, put it here, but that one doesn't fit for me, and I'm going to get rid of that. And so we kind of create this identity. And I like the idea of like, is that true? Is that who you are? Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question,
It
but
it does. And one thing that leads me to be curious about is your background as a soccer player. Were you the
mm,
most philosophically aware person on that pitch usually?
I hope none of them are are watching this, but they might be. I don't know. I just always, I think, I mean, I love the game. I'm still very heavily involved. I love watching it, but I'd always just kind of been curious and fascinated by other worlds and other stories and imagination and play and um, suspending belief.
Hmm.
I mean, even being a kid, being, on the field, I would always kind of be like daydreaming. And I was one of those kids, sitting on the field in the grass, just kind of like looking up at the sky, or whatever. So I'm very lucky that I got to play for such a long time. But I don't know. I'd always just been curious about what makes people tick, and um, yeah, like the other side of life, I guess.
I think you chose the right profession for that. And in the case of Orion, did you know Jocko, or how'd you wind up in this film?
Yeah, so with Orion, I mean, I developed it from scratch with my producing partner Sunil. We wanted to tell a story that kind of tied a lot of aspects in of what we were talking about at the time, what I was going through as a man, and things that I was interested in. Like I said, psychology, what makes people tick, how people view each other, identity, how we get tied to identity, um, and then honestly, like reality being perception. That's
Right.
always kind of really, really kind of, struck a chord with me, and what that means. And then, well, if reality that you live in is your perception, and how that changes from person to person, is there such thing as a fundamental truth? Is truth subjective, or is it objective? And I just love that idea. And so we wanted to tell a story that kind of combined all those aspects, and how maybe communication and language can be a barrier, or it can be a bridge. And then you tie in that, one of my favorite genres, which is science fiction. And I've
Hmm.
always, as a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. I love space. I love exploration, and kind of, what else is out there. And I think tying all those things kind of together into this story was something that was difficult at first, but like we wanted it to be contained. We knew we didn't want some grandiose world jumping thing, and we wanted it to be mainly about the characters being flawed,
Hmm.
being true, being honest, and then kind of discovering that in a very raw and real way. So when we were looking for directors, I remember we kind of like just spent some time thinking about what our story was and who could service that the most.
Hmm.
And we'd come across Gaia, which Yako had done
Yeah.
previously and at South by Southwest, and I thought this was a really cool movie, and in my mind I just assumed it was a big studio film. The way it looked, the way it was performed, the way it was styled. I mean, everything. I was like, this is really cool, and it had so many underpinnings of like deeper meanings. And so I was like, this is awesome. Who directed this? And so we looked him up and we watched a couple of his other stuff, Breathing In, and I was like, oh my God, this would be like this would be a dream. So we sent it to him, and just kind of I remember there was like a couple days there we just had our fingers crossed, hoping he liked it enough to kind of come in and put his fingerprint on it, put his stamp on it, and run with it. And I was saying to someone else that he kind of, we had this ship that was kind of wayward and maybe
Yeah.
steering off course a little bit. And he came in and he loved it and he wanted to jump in head first and captain the ship. So once he came on, it was like, oh God, thank you. This is like why I moved to here. This is why I think this is what I want to do. And so he came on and just kind of got us in the right direction
Sure.
and took over from there.
Where I was going with the, how you wound up in part of that, oftentimes creative people go, this is for other people. I just want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to have to be in front of the camera and behind the camera, but you masterfully did both of that. But a lot of
Thank
people
you.
first found out about you through Pretty Little Liars or other things where you
Hmm.
just acted. Was the
Hmm.
goal all along to be behind the camera and also on camera?
Yeah, it was. I'd always, I don't know. I've not really, I'm not in the space of directing. I don't know that I would, I don't know. I don't know if I would ever want to direct, but I do know that I love storytelling and I love
Hmm.
imagination. And I think it's what's keeping us young. So I knew always that I wanted to have a hand. I didn't know what that meant. I was still kind of, young and naive at the time, but I knew I always wanted to have a hand in that process. And I didn't know if that was producing, writing, directing, whatever that was. And so um, I'd always like admired Brad and Pitt and what he did with his career in the sense of,
Hmm.
creating such a production banner and not just for vehicles for himself, but vehicles that you can have the opportunity to tell stories, right? And
Yep.
I always just admired that and I always wanted that. And I knew it was always a goal of mine. And when I met Sunil, obviously he has a long resume in studio films and stuff. I was just kind of we clicked and he's very much a creative producer. So our styles kind of meshed really, really well. And we just decided we have very similar interests and we kind of believe in each other in that way. So it took off from there and it's kind of snowballing now. So it's nice.
Thank you for your time. Congrats on this one. Looking forward to Bethesda and
Yeah,
looking forward to
man.
what's to come in general, man. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, we got some good stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Paltrow.